Welcome everybody to the Personalised Health Summit 2015. Thank you so much for being here. We're super excited to have Morty Lefkoe here as our amazing guest who's going to be sharing his wealth of knowledge about beliefs with us today. Just wanted to take the time to set the intention for this session and the intention of this summit, which is really about bringing the information from 30 experts from all around the world in various areas of health, from nutrition, exercise, sleep, happiness, compassion, love, and beliefs, mind, consciousness. So many different topics that come together to really form a part of who we are. And this is about understanding what's right for you at this particular point in time so that you can be happy and healthy. I want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, the Ultimate Human Foundation, for all the amazing work they're doing, working tirelessly towards the elimination of chronic pain and disease from the planet, and to PH360 for the tangible application of a lot of these personalised health insights and epigenetics to find out exactly what's right for you at any particular point in time. So please take the time to check out the sponsors, but the biggest thank you is to you for giving up your time and investing your time into your own health, for being here to understand a lot more about this information that exists and how you can apply it to your own life. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome today Morty Lefkoe. Morty is the co-founder of the Lefkoe Institute, whose mission is to empower people to free themselves from stress and suffering and to create unimagined new possibilities for their life. Morty created the Lefkoe method, which consists of 9 different processes for most of the problems in their life that are responsible. He and his associates have worked with over 14,000 people in private sessions, and almost 150,000 people have unlearned beliefs using an online process at recreateyourlife.com. The process enables people to quickly dissolve the meaning we give to moment-to-moment events, which enables them to significantly reduce the unhappiness and stress in their lives. Morty's first book was Recreate Your Life. Last year he wrote Live an Unlimited Life. So without any more rambling about Morty, welcome to today. Thank you so much for being here and joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. Expect this to be a lot of fun.
I expect this to be a lot of fun too. That's a belief that I hold quite strongly. So looking forward to jumping in. Morty, I'd love just to hear a little bit about your story and how you got to this point in time before we jump too much into anything else. Just to give the audience a bit of a background. The intention for today is certainly to be able to have a lot of information that people can apply to their own situations no matter where they're at. And I know there's a lot of great stuff in store for today. So Morty, I'd love just to hear a little bit about you to start with, please.
I suspect a lot of people in this field have gotten to where they are in the same way. They had something that they were trying to deal with. People who found ways to heal themselves, they were sick, and people who found ways to overcome adversity, they had serious adversity. I was all screwed up in my life like so many other people. I was depressed a lot of the time, had a hard time just getting out of bed or doing things. I'd been married twice and got divorced twice because I screwed up both relationships. And I was just trying to figure out what was going on. I did group therapy and conventional therapy. And at some point I got the idea that it's the way we see our lives, it's what we believe about ourselves that determines how our lives turn out. So I got a sense of that. That made a lot of sense to me, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I was living in Connecticut at the time, and I was flying from New York to Los Angeles 34 years ago, January, right after New Year's. And I was about to make a presentation to an organization because I was doing a lot of organizational work. And I sat down and started writing. And I said, what's going on with me? I keep getting so close to success, and then something happens. And then I pick myself. I remember the old song from Swing Time, which is the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movie. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. That was sort of what my life was like. I just came close. Something would go wrong. I'd start all over again, and I just go on forever. And I realized that actually I was proud of the fact that I never gave up. And so many of my friends acknowledged me for the fact that I'd keep going no matter what. And it suddenly hit me that I had a sense of what made me worthwhile was I never gave up. I kept on fighting. And it suddenly hit me that if I thought my self-worth was based on overcoming obstacles, what would I need a lot of in my life to be worthwhile? Not success, obstacles. And I started thinking, but where did that belief come from? And I just journaled and journaled and journaled for 5.5 hours till I landed. And somewhere buried in all of those notes was something that eliminated that belief. When I landed, I did not believe that anymore. And it took me several years to figure out what I had done and how it worked and why it worked. but I actually came up with a very simple process that in 15, 20 minutes could help you eliminate a belief you've lived with your entire life. And that's how it all started. And 34 years later, as you say, we've worked with thousands of people and made a profound difference in lots of lives.
Wow, Morty, what a great story. And I've certainly had the pleasure of enjoying a lot of great conversation with you about this. And I'm so excited to delve into this in the actual tangibles today, because there's so many people that are sitting at home, either listening to this live, watching replays here, that are really in a state, or really in a stage in their life where they're now starting to be aware and starting to observe a lot of the behaviors that are showing up for them, a lot of emotions that they may be experiencing, and really trying to understand what's underlying all of this. And as you've so eloquently put, it's a lot of our beliefs, and it's a lot of the things that we hold true that causes it causes our emotions to be the case, and what shows up in our reality. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about, where do we even start here, Morty? You're obviously an expert, a world expert in beliefs and changing and shifting beliefs. Where does someone start? If someone's sitting at home and they've been able to sort of be aware of something, what's the first step here?
Let me give you a 2-3 minute grounding in it, and then we can sort of figure out what to do with it. Number one is, a belief is a statement about reality that we feel is the truth. So basically, when you have the belief, I'm not good enough, that's a fact. I'm sitting here at a computer, I'm looking at Matt, I'm talking to Matt, that's reality. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, etc. I'm not good enough is just another fact. Life is difficult is just another fact. Relationships don't work, that's just a fact. So all of what a belief is, it's a statement about reality that we hold to be a fact. And we deal with it as if it's a fact. So that's why they have the power they do, because it's the way reality is for us. And I say we feel is the truth because it's possible to disagree intellectually with something we believe. For example, the belief mistakes and failure are bad, which most people hold, which makes them afraid of making mistakes, of trying new things, of taking chances. Intellectually, you might say, well, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. It's a good learning opportunity. What's the big deal? So intellectually, that's what you might think. But if you form the belief as a child, then you've got the belief and it's affecting you today, and you're going to be afraid of making mistakes. So that's the basic. Okay. And here's an interesting way that it all happens. Early on with mom and dad, which is where most of our self-esteem or beliefs about reality take place, mom and dad are critical. And we then give that the meaning, I guess I've done something wrong. Or then they're critical again, and we give that the meaning, I screwed up. Or we give that the meaning, mom and dad are disappointed in me. And at some point, we take all these individual meanings and turn them into a belief. A belief is a generalization. We give meaning to individual events. And when the event goes away, the meaning goes away. But after we have 10, 20, 30 of these individual meanings, we generalize into, I'm not good enough. I'll never get what I want. There's something wrong with me. And that belief stays with us till the rest of our life, affecting us unless we find a way to get rid of it. So we start off giving meaning to individual events until at some point it turns into a generalization about ourselves, about life, about people. And then it affects us forever. And we have beliefs about everything in the world. As I say, we discovered that most of our self-esteem beliefs and our beliefs about life is difficult or we can't get what we want, etc., generally come from the first 6, 7 years of our life in interactions with parents.
Wow, that's such a powerful understanding, Morty, and I really appreciate the way that you just that you converse that there's a lot of events and we just attach meaning to those events, and then as that starts to collect over time and repeat over time, that's what forms our belief. And so for those that are listening at home right now, for us to be aware of that is such an important concept, because there's events that happen in our lives every single day. There's so many things that happen that we still attach meanings to, but to be aware that often it goes way back to when we're under 7 years old, where these subconscious beliefs may be formed, really gives us a great starting point where we can work from. So Morty, I'd love just to delve into that a little bit further, and for people that are here that are becoming more aware of these understandings about beliefs, where do we start? So now that we've got an understanding of what a belief is and sort of how they're there, what can we do from this point in time, and how can we even, I guess, even before that, how can we start to be aware of the beliefs that we do have? A lot of us just, life goes on and things show up in our life, and we respond accordingly. How do we first even identify what our beliefs are, or how do we become aware of those sorts of things?
Well, very often it takes a course. It takes a while. It takes some training to really be able to find all the beliefs that cause a given problem. To find any individual belief, you just sort of look inside and you just have the sense, oh God, you just hear yourself saying, well, boy, life's difficult. Life's not fair. You just can't count on people. So the things we just sort of say over and over in the course of our lives, we very often can find individual beliefs. But there's no reason to get rid of beliefs. Who cares what you believe? What you want to change is the way you live your life. You want to change, you want to get rid of problems. You want to stop procrastination. You want to get over your social anxiety. You want to stop being angry. You want to get rid of the fear that keeps you from taking action. So what you're looking for are the beliefs that cause specific problems, not just any random series of beliefs. I mean, if you have the belief I'm not good enough and it doesn't affect you, well, sort of so what? But if it's keeping you from taking action, if you feel I'm not good enough, so I'm not able to achieve what I want, so you never get around to going after what you want because you're not good enough, then it's a problem. So basically the place to start is not with beliefs, but with the things in your life that are undesirable, that are dysfunctional, that you don't like, that you want to change. And as I say, it takes a while. We can train people to do this, and I can't, obviously, I'm not being coy about it. I'm happy to tell people, except it's just, it's a skill. It's like any other skill. There's just no one or two simple tips. But there is one thing that does, that you can use to help find beliefs. Just before the problem starts, so if you're procrastinating just before you put something off, or if you're getting angry, just before you get angry, just before you're about to do something and you feel fear and you don't do it, just before that, what are the thoughts you have? And the thoughts will almost always be a reflection of the beliefs. So if I'm working with somebody, if I were working with you and you came and said, I procrastinate all the time, can you help me? I'd say, well, let's find all the beliefs that cause your procrastination. And if we get rid of all those beliefs, your procrastination will stop. We've done that thousands of times. And I'd say, what do you believe? And you'd say, I haven't the faintest idea what I believe. All I know is I procrastinate. So I'd say, okay, go back. When was the last time you procrastinated? Make it real to yourself. And there was something you had to do, and you're now getting all ready. You're just about to do it. And just as you're about to do it, and you say, oh, wait a minute, I gotta make a phone call. I gotta go through the mail. Wait a minute, I'm not comfortable. I better turn the air conditioning on, etc. Just when that happens, what are your thoughts? And you'll say, let me say, I'm going to fail. What else? I'm not going to be able to do it. What else? Wonder what people are going to think of me if it doesn't work out. What else? I'm not sure I can do it. So the thoughts you have just before every one of those thoughts is indicative of a belief. So that's where we would get the beliefs from, and then we would eliminate the beliefs one by one.
Wow, that's really powerful to understand, Morty. And I know listeners, we've already got a lot of different comments coming through from that, and the power of what you're sharing, even just in a very, very tangible, matter-of-fact way, Morty, is extremely powerful. There's the fact that we can actually change our beliefs and change our status at any particular point in time in such a quick way is almost mind-blowing to think that that's even a possibility. And I just wanted to sort of let people know that those who are listening live today, we have the opportunity to engage with Morty, and Morty's going to take us through a live demonstration of how we can actually change a belief on this very call, which is super exciting. So if you want to be involved in that, if you're interested, you can raise your hand. There's just a little icon down the bottom, request to speak, where you can raise your hand to actually join us in the call. And also, please feel free to pop questions in for Morty, and we'll be engaging with Morty throughout this session to answer all your questions that you have. So feel free to go ahead and do that. We're going to jump into some questions as we go. Yeah, please take advantage of Morty's amazing understandings and insights into beliefs.
There's one other point I just want to make sure we have a chance to take a look at, since your show really is about health. There's a tremendous amount of evidence. You're probably more familiar with the evidence than I am, but that virtually every illness that we have, everything from heart disease to cancer to diabetes to everything, is significantly influenced by stress. So constant stress, if you have stress for the moment, you get scared and your adrenaline goes up, and then the fear, the problem goes away, you're fine. But constant stress that stays with your body over and over and over, time after time, for days, weeks, months, or years, will almost always have a significant causal relationship to illness. Now, number one, I would contend that stress is nothing more than negative feelings. Could you imagine feeling stress if you never felt anxious, if you never felt angry, if you never felt upset, if you never felt sad? Could you possibly be stressed? I would contend not. So ultimately, stress is the result of negative feelings. And I would go beyond that and say, negative feelings are all the result of meaning we give events. So you ask your friend, your spouse, whatever, to do something, to pick up something for you at the store, and they don't. And the meaning you unconsciously and automatically give that event is, they don't care what I want. I mean, obviously, if they cared what I want, they'd have picked it up. So they don't care what I want makes you angry and upset. Your boss calls you into the office and you give it the meaning, I'm in trouble. Then you get scared, I'm in trouble, I could get fired, something's going to go wrong. So all the negative feelings we have come from meaning, which is ultimately based on the idea that events have no meaning in themselves. All meaning is in our mind, it's added to events. That's just an assertion that I could spend some time trying to tease out and explain why. And maybe you'll see that when I do the demonstration. But basically, I would just contend that events have no meaning in themselves, but we give meaning to events. It's the meaning we give to events that's ultimately the source of all of our negative feelings, and our negative feelings produce stress. So it is possible to learn how to stop giving meaning. When you do, the negative feelings stop, and when you do that, the stress stops. It is possible to live a life without negative feelings and stress. I have gotten to the point where I do that myself 95% of the time, and many people who've done my courses and learned how to do this report the exact same thing. So from a health standpoint, apart from a mental health, from a psychological standpoint, it's obviously wonderful not to be afraid and not to be angry and not to be upset. So psychologically, that's a wonderful experience. But from a physical health standpoint, I would contend, and someday I'd love to do the research to demonstrate this, is that if you can stop stress over a period of time, you can ultimately significantly prevent all kinds of illnesses.
Wow, Morty, and thank you so much for tying that back to health, because that is the whole intention of this series, is that we're here having a conversation about personal health, and it doesn't get any more direct than that. And I think we've certainly starting to understand the whole reason why there's so many things that show up in our life, and you so accurately describe that. And as you know, I speak a lot about these sorts of things in terms of health, and you very accurately describe how our beliefs and our meanings that we attach to events actually create our emotions, and a negative emotional state that exists, especially a current negative emotional state, contributes significantly in a negative way to our biochemistry. Mm-hmm. We measure this now in our physiology, in our body, and in our brain with our neurochemistry. And these prolonged ill or imbalances in our biochemistry actually contribute towards a lot of the chronic disease state that we see today. So if you sort of trace the lineage back, it actually comes down to our beliefs, and it comes down to what we actually attach meaning to, which is a really, really powerful understanding. And we're only just really figuring this out. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing, leading the way and across the world at the moment in helping people understand that. So while you're here too, you can go to visit mortylefkoe.com to find out a lot more information about this. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, Morty, we've got some great questions that are coming through that are directly related to what we've just spoken about there. Anna asks, Morty, if our parents' behaviors are so influential early in our lives, are there any children that grow up without the belief that mistakes are bad?
I haven't found any. We've worked with thousands of people. And it's not that we have bad parents or ill-meaning parents or something like that. It's that most parents are two problems. One of them is parents aren't aware how their behavior is influencing the beliefs that are being formed by their children. They just don't know that. So they can't be aware, they can't try to do something about it because they don't know there's anything to do anything about. Number one. And number two is they bring their own beliefs with them. So you're bringing your beliefs of I'm not good enough and mistakes are bad, and the role of a parent is to tell a child what to do, and children should be seen and not heard, etc. So you're bringing all your beliefs with you that are affecting your parenting. So between the two, very few people escape childhood without a bunch of negative beliefs. Is it theoretically possible not to? Yes, but I have not found anybody yet who didn't have at least a couple of I'm not good enough or I'm not important or mistakes are bad or something like that. Almost everybody has at least a few of those beliefs.
Beautiful. Thank you, Morty, for sharing that insight with us. And Anna actually just asked a follow-up question. She says, and a personal question I have is, how do we practice awareness and transformation of these beliefs without blaming our parents?
Well, exactly what I just said. It's not that our parents did anything wrong. They did the best they could given what they knew. My wife, Shelley, has a parenting business, and her focus is on how can I educate parents to be better parents, to have children who grow up without all these beliefs. And there's a whole bunch of things that parents can learn how to do. But if they don't, excuse me, let me turn the intercom off. But if they don't know these things, they're just doing the best they can. So when you actually do the process, as I'm going to demonstrate in a couple of minutes, and you go back and realize that mom and dad just did the best they could, and we then gave meaning to what they said, you sort of forgive them or just say basically, you know, that's just the way it happened. And we don't hold resentment or grudges or blame them, etc., for doing the best they could do.
It's so powerful. I really appreciate the holistic approach that you've got to this, Morty, because you know, most parents, when you talk to them, this is something that, you know, how do you know what to do as parents? You don't, you know, you kind of figure it out as you go. A lot of people, and it's really amazing that you can have a lot of information that we're, you know, from all this understanding that we can now bring towards young parents and help them understand the significant impact of what our parenting does, you know, or how it affects our children in those early years. And it is a really powerful understanding that we know now that a lot of our subconscious programs are, you know, are ingrained into us in the first 6 or 7 years of our life. And that is such an important time, and it's really great to see. And for those who are on this call, I'd love to hear you know, some thoughts or comments from you about your parenting practices or how your parents, you know, raised you, and if you have any, you know, any issues that you still have around that, and you know, some support or some comments for that for Morty as to how we're going to be navigating through this in the rest of humanity, because that is an interesting conversation that I like to talk about a lot. Is about the future.
We could do a whole hour or 2 hours on parenting alone. Shelley's done those workshops all the time. There's one point that it's sort of implicit in what I said, but I just want to highlight it because I think it's very relevant. What our parents did has no impact on us at all. Nothing our parents do or say. It might affect us at the moment, but the minute after they're done, it's not affecting us. What affects us for the rest of our lives is the meaning we give it. So we are very fortunate, because if it's our parents' behavior that causes our problems, we're stuck. Our parents' behavior is never going to stop. What they did to us when we were 5, they did, and it's never going to be any different. You can't change that. But we're lucky. What they did is not causing your procrastination or your depression or your anxiety today. What's causing the problems today is the meaning you gave it. Not that mom and dad yelled, but that you gave their yelling the meaning, there's something wrong with me. And you can get rid of the meaning, you can get rid of that belief in 15, 20 minutes, at which point your childhood becomes irrelevant. So your childhood is only relevant, and that's where the belief came from. But once you get rid of the belief, nothing that happened in your childhood makes any difference at all. So that's a very fortunate thing to make that distinction, because an awful lot of psychologists or people in general have the idea that we're shaped by our childhood. No, we're not shaped by our childhood. We're shaped by the meaning we gave our childhood, which is very, very different. And as I say, we're fortunate because you can always change the meaning. You can't change the childhood.
Morty, in itself, if we took nothing else away from this call, I think that's probably one of the most powerful messages for everybody who's listening to this live or replay to understand. Those words are extremely powerful, and I really hope that that can resonate with a lot of people, especially those who are in a state at this particular point in their lives where they feel maybe it is ill health that they have, maybe it is some psychological trauma that's existed from childhood. It's just the meaning that you've attached to events as opposed to the events or circumstances themselves. That is changeable, Morty. So that's really exciting. I've just got one more question here from coming through. I've got quite a lot of questions coming through, Morty. We've got Jen asks, could there be other sources of personally detrimental beliefs besides your parents? I remember my parents always being supportive, loving, and wanting me to express, yet there are times I find myself paralyzed by the thought of someone actually knowing who I am. Could there be other causes for that?
Yes and no. We form beliefs at all times in our life. We don't form beliefs about business, for example, till we get into business. So we might not form a belief as to what a good manager is, or what a good company is, or what a good employee is, or et cetera, until we're in our 20s when we go into business. We might not form beliefs about relationships until our first relationships at 16, 17, 18. And depending on how our partner treats us and how the relationship goes, that's when we're first experiencing it. So we form beliefs when we first experience some area of life. And at the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, we're trying to understand ourselves and people in life. So our basic beliefs are formed then. And because our lives are dependent, or literally our survival is dependent on our parents, it usually involves our parents. In rare cases, in rare cases, if we have a full-time nanny or a full-time grandmother or something like that who's taking care of us, because both parents are working, yes, the behavior of that person could be involved in some of those early beliefs, but even still, it's the fact that our parents aren't there. I'm not important because mom and dad are never here. I don't see them all day long. So it'd still be mom and dad not being around that has us form some beliefs. But yes, in some cases, in some rare cases, you could have siblings that have a significant impact or bullying you or taking care of you a lot. You know, in big families, sometimes the older kid takes care of the younger kids. So there can be exceptions, but they're very, very rare. And it would take a while to fully give an answer to this person, but I actually wrote a whole blog post on why we think our parents are perfect, but still, despite the very fact they did the best they could, 99% of the time, the beliefs did come from parental behavior.
Wow, that's a powerful understanding itself, Morty. And again, for those that want to know more information about the amazing work that Morty's doing, please go and visit mortylefkoe.com. And Morty, we've got Rebecca, who's just joined the call today. Rebecca, where are you calling in from today, Rebecca? Where are you from?
Hi, I am in from Las Vegas. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
We can hear you. Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. Las Vegas.
So Morty, would love if you would like to take Rebecca through an example here. She's volunteered. There's a few other people that have volunteered, but Rebecca's going to be our subject today for anything you would like to do with her to take her through a belief so that everybody can experience what you do live on this call.
Okay. We'll be happy to do that. I just want to make the point that observing it is very different than doing it. It's almost like watching somebody meditate, and you say, oh yeah, they close their eyes, they're taking deep breaths, etc. Yeah, I understand what meditation is. The person who's doing it has a totally different experience. So you can look at it and say, oh God, I can't really believe the belief is gone, or what, that was so simple, you know, what's the big deal? So I will be happy to do it and give you a sense of what the steps are and how it works, and then you can ask Becca some questions and, you know, maybe ask her what her experience was. But I just want to emphasize that it's a very different experience when you go through it. It does work, the belief does go away, and it's a very different experience at the end than just watching it or hearing about it. So with that caveat, let's get started. Well, what I'm looking for, as I said earlier, normally you don't eliminate beliefs for the sake of eliminating beliefs. You eliminate beliefs that cause specific problems. But in this case, we're just trying to demonstrate the process for eliminating beliefs. So what I need from you is some belief that you'd be, number one is I appreciate your volunteering to do it, and your honesty and your courage in being willing to state something that might seem to be negative about yourself. But what I'm looking for is some belief that's real to you, that you have some basic core self-esteem type belief that I can help you get rid of in the next few minutes.
Sure. Thank you so much for offering. This is awesome. I'm not quite sure what the belief is, but I have almost a physical reaction to not being right or being wrong. So
what kind of reaction to being wrong?
Almost a physical one. I kind of feel like, yeah, I need to do something, or I need to hit someone or something. I don't know. Not hit someone, but So it's every time I think, I'm not sure why, but yeah, that's it. I don't like.
Well, there's a lot of possibilities, so let's just check them out until we can find one. Cool. One possibility, but basically what we're doing is what I said earlier, is you're starting with a pattern, you're starting with a problem, you're starting with something you want to change, is I'm afraid of being wrong, I don't want to be wrong, if I am wrong I have a physical reaction, it feels very, very uncomfortable. So now my question would be is, what would you have to believe in order to react that way? And there's a lot of possibilities, and there could be more than one belief that causes it, but one obvious belief is mistakes and failure are bad. It's bad to make a mistake. It's bad to fail. It's bad to be wrong. So try saying those words. And again, I'm not asking if you believe it, because intellectually you might say, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. What's the big deal? So I'm asking, does it feel true? Does it resonate at all? So say mistakes and failure are bad, and let me know if it resonates even a little bit.
Mistakes and failure are bad. Yes, it's in my stomach. Rawr.
Okay.
It's not bad, I know that, but apparently my body doesn't.
Yeah. And this is very important for people, as I say, because when you first look at a belief or say the belief, you say, that's nonsense, I don't believe that, where you either don't want to acknowledge you have a belief like that, or it doesn't make logical sense, or it's embarrassing. So the point is to actually look inside, does it resonate? Does it go clunk somehow? So thank you for your honesty. So now the next question is you weren't born with that belief, you've got it today, so we're going to look for where it comes from. And in my experience, 99.9% of the time, this type of belief would come from interactions with mom and dad. And basically it would be if you didn't do what they wanted you to do or the way they wanted you to do it, or you didn't succeed in some way, they'd be angry, they'd be disappointed, they'd either withdraw, they'd yell. So I don't know what specifically it is in your case, but how did they react when you either made a mistake or didn't do what they wanted?
For me, I can't really remember a lot in my childhood, but something that does resonate with that was I do remember quite vividly when I was, I think I was probably about 4 or 5, that I was sitting with my cousin on the floor at my grandma's house, and he was doing something that I didn't want him to do, and then I hit him over the head with a building block and made him bleed and got yelled at. So I remember that vividly, and just as you were talking then, that's what came to mind. So. Okay.
Well, that's fine. That's a good start. 99% of the time, again, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Everything's okay. Very, very rarely do beliefs come from one event. Like I said earlier, we give meaning to one event. Oh, I made a mistake. I screwed up. And then it's gone. And then you give meaning to the next event, and it's gone. And it's only after we've done that many times that we generalize and form a belief. Anytime I make a mistake or fail in any way, it is a bad thing, no matter what it is. So basically, there's no one event that causes it. So you don't have to remember a specific incident with mom and dad, but in general, what's your sense when you didn't do what they wanted or the way they wanted it, or you messed up in some way, What kind of reaction did they have? Did your parents yell? There are some parents that yell a lot. There are some parents that withdraw. There are some parents that punish. How did mom and dad treat you when you weren't doing what they wanted?
Oh, I honestly, my father died when I was 6, so I don't remember anything that he would. Oh, actually, again, it's one event. I know that I didn't read my dad a bedtime story when he was dying, and I know there was a bit of I can't remember quite what it was, but yeah, there was some sort of oh gosh, I don't know what to say. There was some sort of reaction there that I don't know what it was, but it may have been a disappointment, or something like that. Oh, okay. Is that helpful?
Well, that's fine. That's again, that's one incident, but is that typical? What I'm interested in getting is, you may not remember. Some people remember details, some people don't. I don't remember any specifics at all before the age of 6 or 6.5 or 7. Not one incident. I have not a single memory. But I have a sense of mom and dad. I know them from later in life, and I have a sense of how they acted. As I say, some parents yell all the time. Some parents never. I've had people say, my parents were wonderful. They never yelled at me. Well, what did they do? They withdrew. So withdrawing is the same thing. I've done something bad. They're withdrawing their love. So I'm not asking you to remember anything specific. Just in general, how did your parents deal with you when you were a little kid? And if you don't remember the first 6 years, how did they deal with you at 7? Because it probably wasn't any different. So if you don't remember the first few years, you can sort of remember 7 or 8 and extrapolate backwards, because it probably wasn't any different.
Okay. I think if I remember a little bit later on, then I know if I did something wrong or if I did something that wasn't perfect, then there'd be frustration, and then I'd feel a little bit of, and then I'd feel bad.
Well, they would be frustrated, and how would they act when they were frustrated? What kind of things would they say? What would they do? How did you know they were frustrated?
I suppose it would be more of a withdrawing thing. It would be, I mean, there wasn't yelling and there wasn't anything, there was nothing physical, there was nothing yelling, there was nothing overly aggressive. So it would have been having to get on with what they were doing.
Okay, so they got frustrated and you knew that because they withdrew. Was there any kind of thing they would say? Was there very often in families there's a typical kind of comment, oh, there you go again, or I can never count on you, or can't you do anything right, or don't you ever listen? There are things that parents say that are sort of typical of a given set of parents. Well, what kind of phrases do you remember from your childhood?
Possibly, you don't listen to me, or why don't you listen to me?
You don't listen to me?
Or why don't you listen to me? If you'd listened, then you would have done something differently.
Okay, why don't? And if you... Okay, just getting some notes so I can remember. So things like, well, you didn't listen to me, or you don't listen to me, why don't you listen to me? And basically you screwed up. If you had listened to me, you wouldn't have screwed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't remember the specifics, but you have a sense that this happened, that this is something mom and dad did on some regular basis, whether it was every day or every week. But if it's every week, that's 50 times a year. So from 2 to 7 years old, that's several hundred times, which is more than enough to form the belief. So here's my question. I just want an honest answer, whatever feels true. You've got the belief today, mistakes and failure are bad. Is it real to you that that's the meaning you gave to literally hundreds of examples of not doing what mom and dad wanted, and then getting annoyed, getting frustrated, withdrawing from you, feeling unloved, like I did something wrong, I did something bad, and then saying, if you had only listened, you wouldn't have screwed up, you wouldn't have made this mistake, why didn't you listen? So they're basically saying you screwed up, and that's bad. And if you'd listened to me, you wouldn't have done it. So do you have just some emotional sense that the belief you had today came from hundreds of these incidents?
That resonates quite well.
Okay, good. So that's the way it is. It'll just, when you find it, it will resonate quite well. So you're doing great. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're doing fine. So now the next step is instead of telling you you made a mistake or you're wrong, I'm going to tell you just the opposite. What you concluded is what 99% of all little 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old little girls would have concluded given the same events. That's a reasonable interpretation for a 6, 7-year-old mind. That's the way they would have interpreted. So you didn't make a mistake, you didn't screw up, you gave a meaning that made sense to you at that time, at that age. I'm going to ask you now, many years later, as an adult, let's look back. What else could the same events mean that didn't occur to you when you were a little girl? So mom and dad being annoyed, frustrated because you didn't do what they wanted could mean it's bad to make a mistake and fail. What else could it mean?
It could mean that that there was a bit of time wasted and we could have been doing something else.
Okay. Could you see that one possibility is mom and dad thought mistakes and failure were bad, so they treated me consistently, but they were wrong. It's actually a great way to learn.
Yep.
That would account for all the facts just as well as the meaning you came up with.
Yep.
Yeah. So in my household, mistakes and failure were bad. If I had grown up in Morty's household, wouldn't have been bad at all. So around here, they actually are bad. Someplace else, they may not be bad at all. Is that a reasonable interpretation?
That could be interpretation, yep.
That accounts for all the same facts. Everything mom and dad did, everything you did, could mean it's bad to make a mistake and fail, and it could mean it's bad to make a mistake and fail in this household. It may not be someplace else.
Yep.
Yeah. And it could very well be that mom and dad's reaction wasn't because you made a mistake or failed. It could be their beliefs, their psychological state, their parenting training. If they had had more training, they might have been able to sit down and explain, maybe we didn't make our instructions clear, maybe we have unreasonable expectations for a 5-year-old, maybe this is just beyond you at this point. So with parenting training, they could have treated you totally different. So mom and dad's reaction could be because it's bad to make a mistake and fail, and it could be they just had lousy parenting skills.
Could be. Wouldn't I say that, but could be.
We could go on forever. Can you see that what you concluded made perfect, reasonable sense, but there's a bunch of other interpretations that are just as valid?
Yes. Yeah.
So can you get now, on some level, we're not done yet, but can you get that what you've been living with as the truth since you're 5 years old is just one arbitrary interpretation of a series of events with mom and dad? And there's a bunch of other interpretations that are just as valid as yours.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Good. So here's the next step, and probably the most important. Go back, close your eyes or open, whatever works for you, but go back and take any incident that pops into your mind. I'd like to find one incident where mom and dad are frustrated, withdrawn, where you hear them saying you don't listen. If you had listened, you wouldn't have screwed up the way you did or made the mistake or whatever. And make as real as you can some event in your childhood where this is going on. And as you do, doesn't it seem as if you can almost see mistakes and failure are bad?
Yep.
Yeah. Like if I were there, you'd point out, Morty, take a look. Let's see what mom's look at mom and dad. Can't you see that mistakes and failure are bad? It was as if you could see it and I would see it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So keep looking. Can you really see it? Because anything you can really see, you can describe. If you can see something, you can tell me its color, its shape, its location, its size. Anything you can see, you can describe. So you've just said, I can see mistakes and failure are bad. So tell me what it looks like.
It just looks like someone being frustrated.
Oh no, that's mom and dad. I got that. I mean, I know that you know, you did something and mom and dad are frustrated and you can hear their tone of voice and you can hear their statements. I got that. But you just said I can see mistakes and failure are bad. What's that look like?
It's more of a feeling than a...
So can you really see it?
No.
No. Yeah, that's interesting. See, something you've lived with a whole life. I looked into the world and I saw something I had never seen before. I discovered in the world that mistakes and failure are bad. I could see that. And now you're saying, wait a minute, I never did see it. So if you never saw it, where's it been? If it wasn't in the world, where is mistakes and failure are bad? Where's that been since you're 5 years old?
In my head.
That's right. Something you've lived your entire life that was in the world that anybody would see if they looked was never in the world. It was only in your mind. So next step. What does it really mean that you didn't do what mom and dad wanted and they got frustrated and they got annoyed and they withdrew and they said things like, if you had listened, you wouldn't have, made the mistake, you wouldn't have had a problem? What does that really mean? What do you now know for sure from the way mom and dad treated you? Do you know anything?
Not really.
No, not really. All you know is that it happened. You don't know that anybody else will treat you this way. You don't know that whether anybody else will honor mistakes and failure and say, like at Google, make as many as you can, as fast as you can. It's the only way to learn. Or whether they'll beat you up or kick you out into the street if you make a mistake. You don't know anything at all about whether mistakes and failure are good or bad or what anybody else will think based on what mom and dad did with you when you were 5. So this is important. Can you get that those events have no meaning? You can't draw any conclusions at all from mom and dad's behavior.
I do. It feels very clear.
So that's what I meant when I said earlier, events have no meaning. The only meaning that events have is meaning we attribute to events. And then that meaning we attribute causes our behavior and our feelings. So there's one more piece, just because you mentioned your feelings, so let's do this other piece real quick, running out of time for our session here. In addition to thinking mistakes and failure are bad, didn't you have the feeling mistakes and failure are bad when mom and dad got frustrated or annoyed?
Yes.
Yeah. And it seemed as if mom and dad's behavior was causing the feeling.
Yep.
Except you just said mom and dad's behavior have no meaning. So meaningless events can't cause you to feel anything. So you had mom and dad's behavior and a feeling, mom and dad's behavior and a feeling, mom and dad's behavior and a feeling, but mom and dad's behavior didn't cause the feeling. So what did? Where'd the feeling come from?
It came from my head.
Well, ultimately, yes, but it came from the meaning you had already given the events. And to make that totally real, go back and imagine that same event you did a minute ago. And give it one of the other meanings. So here you are, not doing what mom and dad want. They're frustrated, they're annoyed. Why I wanted you to do A and you did B. If only you'd have listened, you'd have done what I wanted you to do. And say, oh, it's not that mistakes and failure are bad, it's just that mom and dad think so. Or maybe they're bad in this house, but if I get out into the world, people will acknowledge me for making mistakes and learning from them. So just give it doesn't make any difference. Just take any of the other meanings and tell me something. What happens to the feeling when you give the same events a different meaning?
Got it. Again, it's clear.
Good. So come back to the present.
Yep.
Say the words mistakes and failure are bad.
Mistakes and failure are bad.
Does that still feel true?
No, there's nothing in my stomach.
That's it.
Awesome.
You did it. Congratulations, and thank you so much for as I say, just volunteering, but particularly for your honesty and courage and in acknowledging something that could be embarrassing and talking about your childhood. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you, Matt.
So, thank you. So let me just emphasize one thing particularly. The thing that keeps belief stuck, why years of therapy or so many other programs don't work, is that they never deal with the fact that as a child, or whenever it is we're forming the belief, it seems like we can see it. It's in the world. I discovered it. I looked into the world, and I'm just saying, aha, I just discovered mistakes and failure are bad. Look, can't you see that? So as long as you think you see it, nobody's ever going to talk you out of it. There's no therapy, there's no course, there's no reading, there's no understanding that's ever going to convince you you didn't see what you saw hundreds of times. So what this process does is it takes you back there to realize, I didn't see it. It's only been in my mind. What I saw has no meaning. It could mean many things, but I gave it one meaning, but the meaning's in my mind. So what makes this work specifically, and as I say, what keeps other things from working in most cases, is that they never deal with the fact you thought you saw the belief. And if you saw it, you're not going to get talked out of it. So we could go on and on forever with more implications and applications, etc. But that's the basic thing. So Matt, there's our demonstration. When you got any more questions from you or any more questions from the audience? And thanks, Beck. I really appreciate it again. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I feel good.
Hey, another belief gone.
Morty, that was so powerful. And Beck, thanks so much for joining us and being so vulnerable to do that live on this session with Morty. I think, Morty, there's no other way to describe and to actually demonstrate that than what you just did live, and that's just such a powerful transition that people, within 15 or 20 minutes, you can actually see live, and you can feel, for those who can feel how Rebecca's feeling right now, you've actually just changed a whole pattern of things that may show up in her life, and the whole way that everything may, she may respond emotionally to certain situations, which will create a reality. From 20 minutes from changing that is just so powerful, and I really hope that people can understand the enormity of what's just occurred there. With Morty just actually talking through and changing some things in the way that Rebecca's mind works, because all that we actually believe and all that we think and what shows up in our reality is based on everything that happens at that young age, and that's such a powerful understanding. So Rebecca, thanks so much for joining. I'm just going to eject you from the conversation. If you've got any other words you'd like to share, then feel free. Actually, let me just ask you that before you go. How do you feel right now? I
just popped it in the chat. I actually feel really clear and really light, and I don't really understand what just happened, but I don't know, it seems so simple in whatever it was, 15 minutes or whatever, but that's super cool. I just feel light. I feel clear. It's awesome.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us, and Morty, thank you so much for that demonstration. I'm just going to, nothing personal, we're just dropping you out of the talk there. So Morty, that is just such a powerful way to be able to experience that live, and as you said, observing that is like watching someone meditate. However, I think it's a little bit more powerful than that. I wouldn't sort of discredit so much. To be able to actually see that in process is very, very powerful, and I think most people watching this either live or in the replay, there's some great comments coming through about what people have just experienced watching that, and I think that's a really powerful way to understand that it's possible to actually change what we've actually attached meaning to in a previous time in our life. Which is the number one thing to empower ourselves, that we are in control, that we can actually choose what we believe, we can actually choose the meaning we attach to events, and that's something that can change. So I really wanted to and again, just sharing this experience, Morty, as you said, the experience to experience it yourself is really powerful. There's a way that people can actually experience some of this for free. Could you just share with us a link where people can actually go through and actually change some of their beliefs in the same way that you just did for Rebecca live there on the call?
Well, we found a way to create an interactive web digital process, and it's at recreateyourlife.com, RECREATE, yourlife.com. So we have three beliefs, the three most common beliefs that I thought virtually everybody, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not good enough, I'm not important, and mistakes and failure are bad. Most people have all three, but almost anybody would acknowledge at least one of those. So you can go to recreateyourlife.com. There's no charge, and you can have access to any one or all three. and you'll be walked through basically what I just did with Becca, the same thing. And if you follow each step, in almost every case, the belief will be gone when you're done.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Morty, and please go ahead and check that out. We're huge supporters of your work, Morty, and I really would encourage everybody listening to this live or to the replay to go ahead and check out recreateyourlife.com. This is something that we're just really starting to step in and understand the power of our mind in actually creating our emotions in our future and what shows up in our lives. So please go ahead and check that out and see the power and experience the power of what this is to be able to harness a way to change our mind in such a very, very short period of time and have a powerful, powerful impact on our lives. So thank you again, Morty, for sharing your amazing wisdom and the insights that you've done. And we really appreciate so much the work that you're doing in the world to help us all understand more about ourselves, more about our beliefs, and more about what shows up for us in our lives.
We might have time for one more question. Is there something you had or something anybody else has, or have we run out of time?
No, we have a lot of questions that are coming through, but I'd just love to ask you a couple more things, Morty.
Sure,
wrap up, or at least one more call. Just tying this back into personal health, and this is something that we're here doing this whole series with experts from all around the world like yourself to better understand about our situation right at home. I think without a doubt, everybody can really see the benefit and the power in just understanding more about what our beliefs are and about the meaning that we attach to those events in our life, especially in our early life, to better change the situations that we're currently in. What advice do you have for people at home? So where can people start right now? And how can we start to transition through? Is it a matter of just working through all our beliefs and we're suddenly all perfectly fine? Do we constantly have these things that show up in our lives and we need to be mindful of the meaning we attach to events? Is it more than just what happens between age 0 to 6 or 7? How can we navigate through this? And no matter where people are at listening to this at home, if they're in a great happy state and a healthy state right now, how can they prevent things from coming? If they're in a state of despair and maybe poor relationship status, maybe some ill health or suffering from disease states, where do we start and how can we navigate through towards a state of health and happiness?
Well, there's two things. One of them is to get some help. And again, I don't want this to be a selling talk. I'm just trying to give some information, but I can't tell you in 5 minutes how to eliminate beliefs on your own. We have courses that we actually teach people how to do that, and we actually work with people all over the world every day. But one thing to do is to actually start finding and eliminating the beliefs that are causing specific problems. Again, not arbitrarily saying get rid of a belief here, a belief there, but what is the issue, whatever it happens to be, wherever you're having emotional suffering, getting stuck in some way, like Becca said, I'm just always afraid of being wrong. Just if I think about being wrong, I have this physical reaction. So that's a common pattern. There are so many people who don't take action. There are people who have goals and visions and things they want to do that they're afraid. They get started and they stop because out of fear, out of anxiety. So if you take a given pattern, get rid of the beliefs, you can do that. The other thing you can do is to start noticing how you give meaning to events on a moment-to-moment basis, because that's where most of the negative feelings and the stress come from, which would be relevant specifically for physical health. Because as we talked about earlier, if you don't have negative emotions, you won't have stress. And if you don't have stress, your chances of getting better or preventing illness is much, much, much higher. And basically what happens is, how do I do this quickly? We unconsciously and automatically give meaning, moment by moment, to almost everything that happens. In the course of the day, I've had people stop, set their alarm and start looking. They tell me there could be as many as 30, 40, 50 times a day, 300, 400, 500 times a week, and that's probably low. So almost anything that happens to us, regardless of what it is, we do something, somebody says something, a car cuts us off, oh, he's a lousy driver. Or somebody doesn't do something and they don't care. Or somebody walks in the room and doesn't say hello, oh, he doesn't like me, he's angry at me. We just give meaning to everything. And the important thing is, the way our brain functions is it seems to us as if that meaning is inherent in the event. That's what that event means. It's as if you don't say hello, it's obvious that you're angry. If you weren't angry, you'd have said hello. So, I mean, it's almost as if I can see you're angry because I can see you didn't say hello to me. You walked in the room, you saw me, and you went someplace else and you didn't say hello to me. Obviously, you're angry. No, not obviously you're angry. There's 20 reasons why you might not have said hello. All that happened was you walked in the room, saw me, and didn't say hello. You're angry is the meaning I added. And it's possible to learn how to do this very, very simply and very, very quickly, is if you make a clear distinction between the event and the meaning. It's almost as if when you first become aware of it, the meaning is attached to the event. Walked in the room, didn't say hello, angry at me. It's one thing. Ask somebody to get something for you, they don't care about what I want, one thing. Boss calls you into the office, I'm in trouble, one thing. All you've got to do, and it's literally that simple, is to say, wait a minute, this isn't part of this, this is different. This is in the world, I can see this. This is something I added. If I asked 100 people to take a look at it, would they all see he's angry at me? Would they all see when the boss calls me I'm in trouble? No, they would just see the boss called you into the office. Maybe you're getting a promotion. Maybe he wants to acknowledge you. Maybe he wants to give you a new assignment. Could be anything. So basically what you do is just make a clear distinction. There's an event and the meaning I added. And the instant you pull them apart and get that this is in your mind and you added it, it'll fall away. It'll dissolve. And since this is the cause of virtually all of our negative feelings, if this falls away and dissolves, the negative feelings will fall away. And since our stress is ultimately a function of lots and lots of negative feelings, our stress will go away. So by learning how and just practicing over and over again, just every time you have a negative feeling, ask yourself is, what just happened? And what meaning did I give what just happened? And can I separate them? And if I separate them, the negative feeling will go away instantly. That's it.
That's so beautiful, and I think that's the power of understanding exactly what we've just experienced on the call is unbelievable. The fact that we can actually dissociate meaning from events, and most importantly, we have a choice. That happens. We have a choice about to choose actually attached to a circumstance. So much for the amazing insight, Morty. Thank you so much for being here to share your wealth of wisdom with all of us. And I can certainly guarantee that everybody in this call, looking at all the comments, everybody's listening to the replay live here, has just got so much out of this, and just understanding that everything at the moment, or everything now for our life, we have a choice. We get to choose the meaning we attach to events. We get to choose what we believe. We get to actually go back and change some of the ways that we've attached meaning to events and form beliefs at younger ages, and actually transition, and as you described so clearly and so eloquently, remove and almost dissipate the emotion that exists around that, negative emotions that may be attached, that cause stress and cause a lot of issues in our body and our ill health. And stress, as we know, is now the #1 cause of illness and disease, and #1 killer. And if we can work at this amazing way and through these amazing methods to change that, then we're in a fantastic space for humanity moving forward. So Morty, once again, thank you so much for being here, for your time.
My pleasure.
Grateful. Thank you all so much for listening in, for investing your time, and I know you got so much out of this call. Please go ahead and check out mortylefkoe.com and recreateyourlife.com. The links are in the chat as we go, so you can check out how you can actually transition some of your own beliefs yourself for free with Morty. And I really encourage you guys to all check out more of his work. It's really amazing, Morty. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the world. Thank you also for being here to invest this time into your own health and your own life. Please go ahead and like the Facebook page so you can get all the updates and speaker schedules and bonuses. And please make sure you click on subscribe for the YouTube channel so you can watch all the replays for free. And the final thing, please share this with your family and friends or the loved ones that need it most. This information that Morty's brought to us today, and all the other calls that we're having with experts all over the world, are all here for free for you, so that you can start to really understand more about this amazing thing that we call our health, that we can actually start to be in control and make the choices to transition from our space towards a state of health and happiness. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you again, Morty, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.